Now, I know you've talked about this before, but I can't not bring it up.
Sure.
We got to talk DB Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm into that kind of stuff, whether you call it true crime or conspiracy theories and mysteries and all that. I'm big into it. And so you say you know who DB Cooper was, right?
Uh-huh.
You said
he died. Yeah.
To the extent that the FBI has spoken to you? Is that true?
No.
I thought I saw a YouTube that said like the FBI reached out to me about.
Okay, there's some truth. Yes, but hold that. I got a phone call, but I think I might have been catfished. I got a phone call from somebody that said they're with the FBI. But they told me the unit that we used to work on. They said, Chael, just so you understand, nobody's ever going to call you. There was only 2 of us to start with. We've both long left. There was no open file on DB Cooper, because I always thought it was a little weird that the FBI wasn't contacting me. I mean, I'm out. I wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
And I've given a number of details as well, but they're details that nobody else has given. For example, about every 10 years, there's a new story that comes along on DB Cooper, but it's the same thing. It's a new producer. It's the exact same information. Even with the Freedom of Information Act, they haven't gotten anything new in 30 years on this, and I had 2 new pieces. So I even said this publicly. I said, feel like we're in a game of chicken because I want to be contacted. I want them to beg me. I want them to ask me what I know. I want to go through the whole thing.
You want to be wooed.
That's
you
right.
want to be
That's right.
wined and dined.
That's exactly right. I want I want to make a deal. I want to get a little something. I want a pardon for stealing the $15.2 million, maybe. Sure. But I mean, I have these kinds of fans. They don't even call me. They didn't even reach out. So I go, okay, I'll go first. I'll give you 2 things. 2 things that you, the FBI, knows that you've never told. I'll go first. And
so you can verify that.
So that I could prove. And then I did get the phone call. I did get the phone call from the person who said, just so you understand, there was only 2 of us to begin with. In this case, there is nobody over there in Langley that even has an open file on this.
Yeah.
But I did have a couple of details. One of the big things is there was really only one eyewitness to this, and it was the woman that he took. There was one flight attendant. I think he even handcuffed himself to her. A number of people gave eyewitness testimony, but they really never saw him, and he was just a customer that passed through. This woman was with him start to finish, and on day 1, she said he's Hispanic. And the internet wasn't around. Twitter wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a word. Getting your message out was tough. And she told anyone that would listen, which wasn't very many people, he's Hispanic. And she was where she had the ethnicity wrong is he was Indian. And so she saw those dark features and whatnot. And where he jumped, a big deal was they didn't think he could get out. It was forest between wolves and bears and all this ridiculous dish you hear about that he just simply couldn't get out. And it was government land, thousands upon thousands of acres, but it backed to Indian land. And that is where he camped every single summer growing up. He jumped into his backyard.
Got it.
I maintain that he was home for dinner, that his wife didn't even know he was gone. I personally believe he had a motorcycle hidden down there, and that's how he got out of the woods. That's me adding to it. I don't know.
Is that just a speculation? That's how you would have done it, or you have reason to believe?
He used to race motorcycles. He was super into dirt bikes, so I just speculated about this. His wife lives back in Salem, Oregon now, and she does not have the foggiest idea that he was DB Cooper. And I know that his nephew's I said this to his grandson.
Has anybody ever approached her and said it?
No. And I asked my mother. I said, hey, if I went down to Susan's house and I asked to come in, I said, and I told her what I think, and here's why. What would happen to me? And my mom said she would slap you and she would kick you out of her house. She has no idea, and she would be terribly offended. She would not think that was cool. Mm-hmm. And when the composite, there's a sketch and it's an artist. It was him. Yeah. And my aunt asked me about it.
Oh, so that composite is accurate?
Oh, yeah. And my aunt, except it's not a Caucasian. You got
that's
to
what
with the dark features.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit that was tough, that as soon as you hear that, you go, oh, my goodness. But my aunt asked him flat out. She said, are you DB Cooper? They were all having dinner. And she said, are you DB Cooper? And he said no. But the way that he said no, the tremble in his voice, the eye contact, this is what everybody did. Oh, crap. My aunt was only part serious when she asked it until he said no.
Why did they speculate? Like, why did they have their
picture
thoughts?
had come out, and then the bigger
right.
clue that they had, I mean, don't forget this guy's from Portland. They DB Cooper boarded the plane in Portland. But they were from a very small town. Like, the graduating class was of like 13 or 15. It was a really small town.
Everybody knew each other.
They hadn't even seen an airplane, let alone been on an airplane. Mm-hmm. And this was a very close friend of theirs, and it turned out he was taking skydiving lessons. So they didn't even know that anyone in this hometown had seen an airplane, let alone traveled somewhere. He's taking skydiving and didn't tell his friends. I mean, that would have been huge.
That kind of going down, though, if he's in such a small town?
Yeah, it went down in Aurora was the name of the airport. I mean, there's an airport, and there's places you could do it. You would just think that you would share that with your friends. I have a pretty exciting life, and if I would jump from an airplane, I would find a way to mention that to you. Like, especially if we were good friends. Like, that's a really exciting thing to do.
And he planning a heist.
Yeah, and
You
so
wouldn't.
it came out, and they found a photo, and then they had to go back and ask him, and he kind of tried to downplay, and they're like, "This is unbelievable. He's jumping from airplanes, and he's not telling anybody that he's doing it." And then a number of years later, this happens. The picture comes out. It looks like him. So when my aunt asked, and he said that it wasn't him, he then came to my uncle's house a few days later, and he said, "Hey, about dinner, about what Paul had asked me." He said, "She's not the only one. The FBI's been in my house, so keep it down. I'm leaving town." And he did. He left and went to Arizona for about 7.5 years. Now, right now on a federal charge, so what? You're in Arizona versus Oregon. But there was a different time, man. The 70s was a very different time. You could rob a bank, move 2 towns away, and
you're gone.
Yeah.
In general, I think about that all the time. Like, you can't do anything now and start over.
Right.
You can't get away from an ex. You can't start a new job. You can't start a new life. It's like, it literally used to be like, well, I fuck this life up. Like, let me move down here and start over.
Yep.
And everything's so interconnected now. I almost can't fathom that life. I mean, I'm like, how old are you?
45.
Yeah, so we're like, I'm 38 in a couple weeks, like right on that edge. Thank you. We are in the internet era, but we remember life prior to it. But decades before that, the idea of like, I feel like you could get away with anything back then, including, robbing people and jumping out of a plane.
That's right, including
it's such a
hijacking.
It's such a strange crime, though. It's a very unique crime to like set out to do. No,
Yeah.
Like what was his motivation?
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like there's easier ways to go about stealing some money. And,
and it was only $200,000.
Right.
And I mean, there's even more to that, what he did with the money. I mean, I could expand on this story, but maybe that's the part where I'm waiting for the FBI to contact me and not tell them everything. But they ended up pinning on a guy. There was a guy that had robbed a bank, at least a bank. And they killed him in a shootout. The cops ended up killing him in a shootout after he'd done some heist. And so they go, oh, he was D.B. Cooper,
that was him,
too.
so they can
it
check
got
that
a little
box.
bit weird.
Yeah.
I mean, they did that with the who was that untalented guy that people say was great? He was a singer. Tupac. They do that with the Tupac thing where they never arrested the guy that killed him, but they go, wow, but we know who it was and he's dead, so it's case closed. Like, yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's a very common thing that the police do when they get beat.
Right. They don't want to have open cases.